Welcome back. The Gordie Howe Bridge is expected to open later this year, connecting Windsor, Ontario and Detroit, Michigan. It will have cost about $700 million, all of that paid by Canadian taxpayers. But the bridge will open, of course, at a time of unprecedented trade tension and uncertainty between the two countries that it connects. Let's talk about it with our next guest. He's Ryan Donally, President and CEO of the Windsor, Essex Chamber of Commerce. Ryan, thanks a lot for joining us. People in your part of the country must have been looking, I'm sure, have been looking forward to the opening of this gigantic bridge, a game changer if there ever was one for cross-border traffic for years and years. How do they feel now with all these trade tensions?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It really is. This is one of those mega projects that's been happening over better parts of a decade here, with all of the infrastructure leading up to the Gordie Howe Bridge, and then also the bridge construction itself. So, it's an exciting time for us. The Gordie Howe essentially connects Montreal all the way down to the southern states, down to Florida, without any traffic needing to hit a stoplight. So, as far as the free-flowing trade of goods and commerce across the international border, extremely promising and definitely something that's generational. Of course, right now with the current trade tensions that are happening, it's perhaps put a little bit of a damper on the excitement that we're facing, but we do know that this will be a blip on the radar, and that this Gordie Howe Bridge will deliver commerce for a century between our two countries. You
really think that the trade tensions are only a blip on the radar?
Well, I've got to be a bit of an optimist here. Of course, I'm representing the Windsor-Essex region. We do have a very high reliance on manufacturing in our community, with about 50,000 employees out of 500,000 total residents that are employed in the manufacturing sector. It's about 21% of our total economy. So it's quite large. So do I think it's going to be a blip on the radar? Maybe not a blip per se, but I'm expecting and hoping that the conversation, once we do have a new elected prime minister here, that the relationship and the ongoing trade agreement between the U.S. And Canada will be negotiated swiftly thereafter our prime minister is elected.
You make a valid point. We are in the middle of an election campaign. We will soon have a new government in Ottawa, certainly compared to the Justin Trudeau Liberal government. What does your organization want the next prime minister to do?
Well, of course, top of mind right now is this relationship between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. With a great percentage of our export going directly to the United States, Windsor-Essex is extremely reliant on that cross-border trade and free flowing of goods, services, products. So extremely important that is identified and smoothed out as soon as possible for the folks of my region here. Of course, we're also interested in how the current or the next prime minister will open up other trade opportunities, whether that's interprovincial trade or more international trade for our businesses. That's something we look for the federal government to take on.
I spoke in the recent past with the mayor of Windsor, Ontario, and he said that when he talks to mayors in across the border in the United States, in Michigan and in states near Michigan, that they are very aligned with his view that this trade situation needs to get sorted out. Do you speak to business groups on the other side of the border?
We do. In fact, we do have an ongoing working relationship with the Downtown Detroit Partnership, the Canadian Consulate in Detroit, the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce. We have regular and ongoing conversations with them. Bi-weekly, we're meeting at this point. And to the point that Mayor Dilkens has made about the relationship between Ontario and Michigan, and specifically Windsor and Detroit, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce has come out and identified that Windsor-Essex would be potentially third most hit with the tariff situation. They've also identified that Detroit and the Michigan area would be the second most hit city in the United States. So needless to say, we've got a lot riding on it in our binational region here in the Midwest and in Ontario.
You described the bridge in an interesting way when we began our conversation. You described it as linking Montreal with Mexico City, I believe, in a way that does not, the Mexico border, in a way that does not involve a traffic light. Elaborate. What exactly do you mean, especially that traffic light reference?
Yeah, so the 401 corridor starts just outside of Montreal, in on the edge of Ontario and up into Quebec. There, it's about a 12-hour drive all the way down here to Windsor, Ontario. The infrastructure that's been built up around the Gordie Howe enables trucks or commerce to essentially continue to drive directly from the highway, the 401 highway, directly onto the bridge and connecting directly into I-75, which then heads down through to Florida. So there is no traffic lights on interstates. There's no traffic lights on the 401, and there will be no traffic lights on the Gordie Howe. Of course, there's the international bridge point of crossing where that does need to be declared, and there'll be a stop there. But theoretically, a commercial vehicle would not need to stop from Montreal all the way down to Florida, a point apart from the actual point of inspection.
I know Gordie Howe is has a big presence and reputation in Detroit. I've been to the hockey arena in Detroit. They have a massive mural of Gordie Howe on the wall inside the arena. Is he as big as he ever was in Windsor, Ontario?
Yeah, it's one of those iconic cross-border relationships that we do have. Gordie Howe being one of the greatest hockey players of all time, and our national sport, and being the hero for the Detroit Red Wings for all of those decades. I think that's perhaps missed a little bit, is the interrelationship between Canada and the U.S. and specifically Detroit and Windsor, and our social ties between each other. Growing up here in Windsor, my favorite teams were the Tigers and the Pistons and the Red Wings, and that's consistent across most of Windsor. So it's our hometown team. So anything that's potentially disrupting this social relationship is also difficult for our region.
Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today. That's Ryan Donally, President and CEO of the Windsor Essex Chamber of Commerce.